What's going on, Military Cashflow family? This is Dan Wynn, and I'm rolling solo today. Mike's got a prior engagement, so it's going to be me. And we got a great guest today, man. We got Mark Horton. He's coming on for the second time, two-time offender. And if you guys remember the last time, he was managing Airbnbs. He had just kind of started managing Airbnbs. I believe at that time he was maybe around like 15 to 18 units or something like that. And he's since scaled up. He's doubled those numbers while deployed, man. So he's just been killing it. And we talk a lot about him scaling, right? We don't go too much into the details we did the last time, but we talk more about growing your company and doing it while active duty and the things that you need to do in order to do the same, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the episode. What's going on, Military Cashflow family? Today we got Mark Horton on again for the second time, Mr. Two-time over here. Appreciate you coming back, man. Would you mind reminding our audience a little bit about yourself, or just will allow you to reintroduce yourself,
Yeah, man, no problem. So I'm Mark Horton. I'm from the Fort Bragg, Fayetteville area. I'm a National Guard Special Forces Engineer Sergeant. During my time at Fort Bragg during the Q course, I got into real estate investing. And then I linked up with the 5 Pillars group, Shelby and Mike. I know both of them have been on your podcast, so I think everyone's familiar with those guys, especially Mike. From there, I became a real estate agent, and then me and my wife started a short-term rental property management company here in Fayetteville. We're a local boots on the ground type company, not like those virtual ones. Last time I was on here, I think we were talking about I just started. I got to 10, 12 properties. And from there, since then, we've had grown to 36 properties, all doing this while I was actually deployed for 6 months. We've added 2 employees, and now we're launching a couple other companies in the near future and growing out. And I'm still investing in real estate in the area.
Nice. Love it. So we're going to dig into some of the details. And if you guys want to know, I guess, a little bit more of the backstory, like kind of, how he started off and everything like that, make sure to go check out that other episode. So we're kind of going to just do a continuance off of that. We're not going to dig too much into, how you got started and stuff like that, because we've already went over that. What I want to talk about is the growth and the scale, like especially while doing it while deployed. I know there's a lot of listeners out there that are like, man, I'm going on this deployment. I can't really do anything. I don't want to, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do stuff. Talk to those soldiers, man. What was that like for you?
So I think it was quite difficult, and there was some overestimating on what I thought I could do, because I had previously been to some Army schools, and at night, when you're stateside, I was able to knock out a bunch of work and still do that. But once we got overseas into the country that we were in, there would go weeks at a time where I didn't have any internet connection. Or I was gone doing training or doing different things where I couldn't communicate as much as I thought. That was me underestimating what I had going on or overestimating my abilities. But so what had happened was, prior to the deployment that started in July, in January, me and my wife evaluated our company, and we had to make a decision that whether she could manage on her home, 10 to 12 short-term rentals, Airbnbs by herself. If we wanted to grow, we would have to get up to about 22 properties to be able to hire someone and still be profitable and doing well. So we had to make the decision whether we were just going to stay stagnant or we were going to grow and possibly risk it. So we personally made the decision, let's go all in, let's start networking out, and let's grow this. Let's see how far we can get. I think we can do this. And by the time that I left for the deployment in July, we were at about 19 properties, which was a little less than our goal, but we had some more high performers. We got actually a couple more luxury units than we thought. So that made up for the difference. By the time I came back, because of all the stuff that I was doing prior to leaving, we were at 36 units. And we added a second employee to it. So now you have me, my wife, and 2 employees working at full time. And because I knew I was going on a deployment, I had to develop systems that would help streamline a lot of the stuff, but still keeping the boots on the ground. So one of the things, and a lot of us military people should know, we developed SOPs almost immediately. We set up things. So if my wife, who just had a newborn, needed to take some time off, we hand over this stuff, and our SOPs were developed to help maintain the ship. So the way we looked at everything was, we're going to look at it like, if I'm going to be stepping in to drive a vehicle, we just need someone to handle the steering wheel at first. So those were the first SOPs that we developed. From there, and now that I'm back, we're actually starting to develop and write down the list of how to do everything if we need to take a step away for more time. And people can now bring in properties. Now we can hand this over. And I think that was the biggest thing that helped us growing, that we wrote stuff down and people could follow exact procedures on how to grow.
Yeah, man, I think that's a step that's even, in the military. Yes, we deal with SOPs all the time, right? But I think that's a step that's often overlooked a little bit. Like, we tend to get in the habit of just doing things, and we're not, taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture and understanding, well, if I'm continually doing stuff and I'm not writing anything down, or I'm not creating these SOPs, how am I going to step away from the business and allow it to continue to run, right? And I think that's really cool that you identified that early at the beginning, because even myself, I remember, while I was going through this, it took me, for some reason, it just didn't click at first. I knew all these Army-isms and I knew all this stuff that I learned in the Army, and I didn't apply it initially. I would just like go, 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 go. So with that said, what was that just something that you just automatically went to, or was there any like small period there where you're like, oh man, I got to figure this stuff out because I want to step away from the business and I want to scale?
I think right off the bat, we had that mindset, because I know we talked about in the previous episode that we have a very set goal to where we want to be at the age of 40. So as corny as this sounds, man, you backwards plan on everything. And we wanted to set it up at the beginning to be like, this is where we want to be. So, all right, I know in 3, 4, 5 years, I need to bring an operational sergeant or someone who's operational that can handle all that stuff. And I take a step back, and now I'm looking over that. So, okay, if that's where I need to be at 4 years, what do I have to do leading it up? I got to start eyeballing someone probably 2 years out, or looking for the type of person that I would want. And I think us doing it immediately, knowing that I was still active duty, basically active duty, because we've talked about it, I've been on 300 plus orders since 2017. Continuing those active duty orders, guard bumming, as I call it, or as a lot of people call it, I knew I needed to have those systems in. So I think it was a lot of good conversation early on with people who've been in the business for a minute, and not getting early wins bog me down and like, oh, I'm doing well. No, I knew where I had to go. So even though I was winning, I was still pushing myself because I wasn't at the goal that I was trying to attain.
That's great. That's just the power of goals, man. Setting the goals, and just like you said, doing that backwards planning. So you set the goal, right? And you jumped from 18 units in July to 36 units, basically double your units by the time you returned. And I know your wife had such a large part of that, right? Talk to us about that. How did that go? I mean, you're gone, and then she's back here hustling with a newborn, and like, talk us through that, man. What does that look like?
She truly stepped up. It's been a learning curve for her, because she never had that type of entrepreneur or had the same type of education or same type of like different things at the military or my previous jobs. She was a secretary at a chiropractor's office and then went into this. But I think a lot of it was she believed in what we were doing. She saw the potential growth, and she believed in me that I would put us on the right direction. So she jumped 2 feet into it. And, mistakes are made. We're not going to lie. We probably made a mistake. We have made mistakes here and there. I think the difference between her and me and the way we've been able to grow is when we see those mistakes, we don't try to bury them. As soon as some of those mistakes were made, we figured out a way to fix them. We automatically wrote them down, developed them, and developed routines to help make sure that wouldn't happen again. It's very easy for a lot of people to blame everyone else or for why there was a fuck up. But I think us taking 100% accountability helped us develop, and making sure that doesn't happen, no matter how small it is. Like I was just talking to another soldier whose property we manage, and there was a review that saying there was gnats on his garbage can, and that was on the Airbnb review. So what did we do? On our checklist for our cleaners, we made sure, hey, check the garbage, make sure there's no bugs. We also told the people who spray the houses every other month, hey, double check it for this house. This house has had an issue in the past. I think doing little things like that, addressing them as soon as they happen and not letting them fester is one of the reasons. And because she's been so on top of things, she's been able to learn. She's been up in the Bigger Pockets forum. She's on the Facebook groups, and she's learning also lessons from other people and getting ahead of things.
Nice, man. Now, you mentioned something earlier that I kind of want to touch on as well, and I wanted to kind of dig into. You've mentioned it a couple times actually. Your boots on ground, not like other virtual, I guess, Airbnb owners or managers. What is the key difference there, and how do you set yourself so much more apart being boots on ground versus I guess the virtual aspect?
So I think it's the way we're able to get out and deal with calls initially, right? For the most part, all of our properties are well decorated. At the beginning, we bring in professional decorators. We have a professional writer who actually writes our Airbnb or STR descriptions. We have a professional photographer that comes in and takes all the photos. And we do a lot on the back end to make sure when people arrive that it's good. So we know if nothing goes wrong, we're going to get a 5-star rating most of the time. The reason boots on the ground we think makes a huge difference, and why we're still super host with 36 properties, all under one profile.
Yeah,
is because when there is an issue, we're able to get out and at least have a face to that issue immediately. We're able to go out there, communicate with the guests, build some rapport, and get out there within an hour or two. Because all my houses are local, and we're able to kind of calm the thing. Even if we can't fix it, what we notice is at least having someone out there and talking with the guests automatically reassures them, like, hey, these people are very attentive to their program. They couldn't fix it, but you know what? At least they showed that effort. And that's why we continue to grow, is because we've always been able to get out to those properties, and us adding more employees helps spread that out a little bit more now. And that's the difference between boots on the ground and virtual. So like if you have one of those virtual companies that aren't local, that don't have the boots on the ground, for them to get someone out, they have to call them out. They have to basically Google or know a handyman, and immediately you're going to be charged a call out fee. Some of the, like, I think in this area, it tends to be about $75 to $100 just to get a handyman out there to assess the situation. Where with us, we can get out there, see it, and if it's something little, we can fix it, and it's no cost to the owners. And that also helps the owners feel more comfortable knowing that not every time there's an issue outside of our normal work hours, they're not going to be charged, because we'll get out there. Now, there's some big stuff that like, hey, we automate. If a pipe bursts, I know I can't do anything. I'm going to go out there, turn the water off. They're still not going to get that call out fee, which they would have. And now I can get a plumber in there. And because I have so many properties, I can usually move that guest over to another property and hopefully save a review.
Nice, man. Nice. I love this. I love it how you got the flow going on, just moving it to this. I can tell that you have a very detailed SOP, man. Like just talking through little like snafus or little issues. You're already like, all right, do this. It's very, very deliberate. I love it, man. It's awesome. So you also talked about employees, right? And I know that's a key part of scaling. And as we're talking about scaling, we talked about, your wife doing work, putting it in, and now we're talking about the employee piece. Who was your first hire, and how did you decide what their role and responsibilities were going to be to enable you to scale faster?
So we were scaling so much, and when we knew we were at 18 properties, we already knew there were 6 more coming. So we've actually made the decision to hire 2 employees at the same time. The first employee that we hired, we put out a message to people that we knew, and my roommate during the Q course reached out and said, hey, my wife's looking for a job. You want to interview her? We're like, sure, let's interview her. And she's been absolutely fantastic. We've already bumped her up. We were talking about when he PCSs or gets out, like we want to keep her on staff to be basically an operation to handle a lot of the different things and put her on a full-time salary. And we just lucked out with the first person that said yes. She's been absolutely wonderful.
So you can PCS, but your wife's got to stay, man. So
yeah, I'll see you, Dalton, but yeah, Lauren's staying here. But she's been handling it, and she is absolutely amazing. She's been doing a lot of things, and I like her because she really goes after it, and she goes above and beyond stuff. When she gets a project, like, so one of the things we just did is we made Google Drives for every owner and their property, so we can put all the receipts in each one of their houses, so at the end of the year for taxes they can have it. She did all that, but then she also was like, hey, I'm going to do one for our company and for cleaning and organize it for all of us without even asking. And she took that ball and ran with it. And that's like, I can't say I did anything special. I got lucky, and my roommate during the Q course answered the phone first. And then we brought in a second employee who was actually like a grandma to my wife, because my wife's originally from Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, Rayford area. And she was retired. She just wants a job for every 4 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, like 3 times a week. And because she's basically family in a lot of ways, she's in it for the company. So when she goes and checks properties and helps us out, she's not worried about getting her check. She's worried about making sure we continue to grow. So us hiring in our immediate circle, has paid off in dividends so far.
That's awesome, man. So, and how long have you had the two employees?
I think we officially hired them right before I left in June. I think they were onboarded like right after the 4th of July.
Okay. So I'll just put in a timeline together. So now I see like that tremendously helped scale. I'm assuming they were a large part of being able to double those numbers so fast, right?
Oh, okay. Absolutely. Getting properties set up and being able to still maintain our high standard, having people be able to flex out was fantastic. We asked a lot from them, more than we thought we were going to, because we scaled so much, but they ran with it. And now both of them have jobs. As long as we can afford them, they're going to have jobs, and we're going to keep them around because they really put out at the beginning.
See, that's awesome, man. That's great, man. Sometimes hiring people that definitely works out. I mean, I guess it's kind of a 50-50 thing to be honest. I mean, I've had experiences hasn't gone so well, but I mean, hey man, if you can get it to work and it's working well for you, then that's just awesome. I'm really happy for you there. That's good stuff. So moving forward, right? What are you doing differently now that you've scaled and you've gotten your SOP set? I mean, what's the next measure from here? Like, how do you continue to maximize, what you're doing now?
So for this year, for the property management / the whole corporation that we're going to be setting up, we have 3 things that we really want to attain. The first one's going to be repeat guests. We've launched our own website, which has our own direct booking portion. So if you want to skip all the Airbnb fees and have less fees that are charged to you, you can directly to our direct booking site. So we're going to try to attack getting the repeat customers, because Airbnb does the advertisement. We personally don't think we'll have the money or it's worth marketing to compete against them. But if we could start implementing things at our properties to help bring them to our website, so the second, third time they visit, they come to our website, we think that'd be very beneficial. The second thing that we're going to really go after is actually already existing Airbnbs. We have a marketing thing that we're talking about doing. It's going to be very similar. I know you're in the wholesaling, so it's going to be very similar to doing that. Yellow cards or postcards to people that already have existed. And, you get one from me every month. And it's not like wholesalers because there's only so many properties here. Yeah. So sending out 300 postcards every month is pretty cheap. Comparative to some of these wholesalers out there. And then the third thing that we're doing is we're going to be launching our own cleaning company. We're definitely going to have a mix between, we're still going to keep one of the contracts of companies that we already use. We're just going to subcontract out some of the cleanings to them because they do a fantastic job. But our biggest thing is we're going to hire someone to help to manage the day-to-day operations right off the bat. We're going to bring them in, put them on salary, and absorb them and have them run it while we do the back end stuff. I'm trying to get my hands not too much into that, but just help them grow. And we already have, because of who we'll work with, we already have some commitments as soon as we launch a company that there will be some commercial deals. So we're in there. So it's very advantageous to bring the cleaning in-house.
Nice, man. So I'm seeing some vertical integration going on, man. Like right off of the Airbnb, like what's next, what's happening there. So why cleaning, right? So like, I mean, I know it's definitely like an integral part of Airbnb, like getting it done, but why add that on for you? Like, what does that do for your business and help you scale?
So the way we looked at it, and actually my friend explained it to me, but the way I originally looked at it is I looked at Airbnb and all the things that we pay out and do as a pie. I have one slice of the pie as the property manager. So what slice of the pie would be to my left and the right? And the thing that we're already doing is we're already inspecting houses after they're turned over. So we know the expectations of cleaning. We actually clean some of the houses at the beginning. So we kind of know the routine. We develop the cleaning checklist for the cleaners. We develop a system where we have reports after every cleaning. Photos are taken and sent to us after every cleaning. So if we just take a little sliver, a little bit more to left or right of our piece that we already have, it would be easier for us to absorb because we already understand a lot of it. And when I was talking to my buddy about it, he said it's part of our core competency is what we were doing. And I was like, oh, that's a word. And I looked it up. So we just looked at what our core competency is, and cleaning would just be the next easiest step for us to absorb some more responsibility. But the other part of it is we know even in the properties that we don't manage, a lot of people self-manage. We know a lot of the self-managers. And if they knew there was a cleaning company that was run by someone who continuously has superhost status, that has the same expectations that they would probably want to and have already told us that they would use our cleaners.
Nice, man. That makes sense, man. Another thing that you mentioned that I wanted to kind of touch on is the pre-existing Airbnbs, and like that also seems like a piece of vertical integration, even though it's, kind of already nested within your business, but having the website and then trying to, push people through there. What are you doing to help push repeat guests through there? Is it like, I mean, I imagine you can't write that on Airbnb. That's probably a big no-no, right? But I imagine that maybe it's in your house. Or explain that. How does that work?
So the way we're going to be doing is just your basic welcome letter, because we can't, like the way with Airbnb, I don't want to play games with them, so you can't directly advertise. But welcome letters, welcome. This property is managed by Horton State Rentals. If you have any questions, please check our website. And if there's any other bookings that you need, just like a little comment somewhere in there to help draw that attention, because we have a welcome book when you enter the property. So just reading that, we're going to put a QR code on that front page, so they don't even have to type it in. They can just scan it so they can see the email, or they can see the website, and it directly takes them to it. And that's kind of our grassroots program. On top of that, getting in with some of the traveling nurses that we have repeat customers, and just letting them know, hey, we have a website, you can book directly from there.
Dude, that's dope, man. So like all this great stuff, man. You're scaling, you're doing some vertical integration, you're adding more and more pieces to the pie, man. As an owner, how do you feel about this? Like, I mean, I know this has got to feel a certain way, because I know like when I start growing and when things start happening to me, I feel a certain way. And how's it maybe shifted a little bit of your mindset or something like that, and especially affected those around you?
So I think the biggest thing it shifted is personally, I can't be in the trenches as much anymore. I still love going out and working with electrical framing or doing different stuff. I got to go change an outlet the other day. I was like happy I got to do something different, because I spend 8-9 hours in front of a computer or talking to people. So I think the biggest lesson learned has been like, hey, I need to get out of the field, because an hour of my time is more valuable me doing other tasks. And so that was kind of hard to learn, as much as I wanted to be knowing what I'm doing, knowing my company. I need to pull myself out a little bit and do different meetings and stuff. So that's been a little bit of a challenge.
That piece of the mind shift, that's like one of the hardest things, dude. Like even now, right, my property manager will say like, oh, we need to change out floors. And in my mind, I'm like, what's the price? And then she tells me the price, $1,500. I'm like, man, I can do that for like 1,000, dude. But like, probably less than that. I can buy the material and do that myself. And I have to continue to take myself back and be like, your time versus, time versus money. Like where's your time best spent at? Right.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're kind of going through the same thing. Like that's one of the hardest things to do. And I feel you there, man. Like, oh yeah, I got to change an outlook. Cause I'm very hands-on as well, man. So I get that, dude. I definitely get that.
Yeah. So that's been the hardest mindset change, I think, with it. It makes me proud that I'm growing something, that's seemingly being successful. We've been, last year was our first full year. We were profitable in a lot of ways. So it was good. Knowing that I'm keep adding, there's a sense of pride to it too, personally for me, because I didn't do well in college. I didn't do well in high school. I was just an athlete. I got a criminal justice degree. So there is a sense of pride of like, hey man, I never took a business school in my life. I just have a bookshelf full of books. I read it, YouTubed it, and bought a couple properties and forced myself to figure it out. And, I look at some other people that have tried stuff that educational wise would have the deck stacked against me. And I've continued to outperform them, and hopefully I continue to do that. And I think a lot of it has to do with my wife and the way we operate, trying to be a family company, always trying to do the best. We don't put the profit. We like to make a good profit, but we're okay with losing a little bit of profit if it means we have to return guests, because we're going to make more over long term. So we try to just be good people, and we put ourselves in other people's shoes, man. We started as investors, so we know how the company we wanted to invest with would want to be. So if we always put that in our mindset of like, well, if I was an investor, this is my property, how would I want the property management company to act? Because I manage some of my own properties, so I know how that feels.
So I know a lot of other. I'm sure there's other Airbnb managers or short-term rental managers out there that you probably know, and I'm sure there's probably some out there that that were not investors, right? How much is that? Like, how big of a difference do you see? Like a large difference between the two types?
So I'm as we're talking, I'm putting a STR 101, short-term rental 101 class together.
Nice.
And like one of the things I have on there is how to screen property managers and real estate agents. And I personally believe, unless you know what it's like to have your money on the line, you can't understand what your other clients are going through. Like, and that's how we started. If you recall, the first two properties we managed were properties I bought in a different LLC. And so we understood everything that we do. If we do something new, we try it on one of our properties first. So we're not putting other people's money on the line. And I think that's what people see. It's like, hey, we continue to do things, even when people aren't asking, to try to grow, to give people better return on their investment. And people appreciate that family, that small business. I call it mom and pop. We're like a mom and pop store. We use a lot more technology nowadays with price software and all this. But we're local, we're a small business, we're that mom and pop store that everyone kind of knows. And that's what we want to keep going on.
Yeah, man, that's great, dude. I think this kind of ties back into your other comment about education, right? Sometimes that experience, most times the experience speaks a lot louder than, what traditional education or basically self-education typically beats traditional education, in my opinion, right? You being in the trenches, you actually managing properties, you actually being, kind of a handyman and liking to get your hands dirty. You understand what the bottom line looks like. You understand what that true risk for the property owner is like. So now that you're a service to that property owner, you kind of understand like what they're thinking and how to best serve them. So I think that's definitely a key. Yeah, it's definitely key, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it just gives you a different cut, and gives you a little more edge on the sword when you know what's at risk.
Yeah. So what's the next steps in scaling for you? What does that look like for you? And where do you see yourself going? I know you've done some backward planning. Let's hear the wild, audacious, hairy goal that you have right now. Cause I don't think you said that the last time. And yeah. I'm sure it's been a little bit refining right now. So what I'd love to do is for you to announce it. And then once we hit it, we'll bring you back on again and be like, all right,
So just this year alone, we'd like to get to 55 properties managed, launch the cleaning company, that's going to happen. and the reason I'm looking up is because I have it written on my whiteboard right here.
Go
So
ahead, man.
anyone that's ever been to a specialized school or anything knows about the whiteboards. I live with whiteboards and Sharpie. So 55 properties, cleaning company. And then I think the biggest thing we like to push into by the beginning of Q3, quarter three, would be opening up at Southern Pines, Pinehurst area. We've looked at that area. It's close enough for us to believe that we can maintain that small business sense. We already have people out there that want to do something with us and probably come under our name, but it'll be a different branch. And, back when I originally thought about this, I wanted to control the whole world, to be the king of the Carolinas, the king to the East Coast. But I think where we will continue to be most successful is just maintaining Fayetteville, Southern Pines, Pinehurst area, and keeping the way we do things. I think that's where our scalability is to what we want to accomplish, always being super hosts and top performers.
Nice, man. So with that said, and you talked about Pinehurst and you talked about some of these other areas, now I'm going to ask some selfish questions, right? So for those of you who don't know out there, my wife just got her assignment list, and me and Mark was talking about this offline a little bit, but we got our assignment list, and we are officially going to Fort Bragg. So I'm extremely excited about that. And since I have you on and I can ask these selfish questions, we've been looking at places to we were trying to, do the house hack and buy multifamilies and things, but man, there's not really any multifamily. It doesn't seem like there's multifamilies in places that we actually want to live, right? So with that said, if we buy a single family home, we want to ensure that we're going to be able to, use it. It's going to perform after we leave, right? So we can hold it for a long period of time. Most of the short-term rentals that you are managing, I imagine they're single family homes, correct?
Not anymore. We have like a small apartment complex. We have 4 units. So we have just about anything from 5 bedrooms to studio apartments now.
How well did that? Well, again, I'm asking selfish questions here. So how well do the single family homes perform, and in what areas are you seeing them perform the best? Because that can help us kind of shape where we're starting to look at.
So single family homes in particular, for your price, anything near the gates is fantastic. So it's like the Monte Carlo, those neighborhoods, a little bit more like west, things off of Cliffdale, Water's Edge is a good neighborhood. Obviously Haymount is the historic area down there off of Morganton. Those areas do very well.
These are good places for like families. So essentially what I want you to talk to is, like the person that's PCSing there that kind of wants to do what I'm talking about right now. I'm like, all right, if I buy a single family home, I want to make sure it cash flows as an Airbnb once I move. And I can pass it off to Mark Horton, to the Horton family, and they can manage it properly, right? So what are those key areas?
Those are the areas I would recommend because it's just their location. Family wise, if you were buying just to buy a personal house that had no investment, then I would try to push you more towards maybe Hope County, Jack Britt, Sanford, those areas, because you get a nice big house and it's family, good school districts, right? But if you're looking for a little bit of both, where you can Airbnb, have a good neighborhood, and be with the community, yes, those are the areas that I would recommend. Depending on where your price range is, like Water's Edge is a good area. The Haymount area is a very good area. There's Cumberland Heights, that's a very good area by Mazurk Park. That's a good area. Don't go too far, because then you start getting into the little bit. It goes down. It's a nice slight going down. So let's keep you off there. I wouldn't recommend anything off of the Merck Street. Those usually don't STR very well. And then for family areas, I think those are the best areas for family. And then right outside, like I said, if you come out the Yakin Gate, if you push a little bit further, there's a couple good areas right outside the gate. If you're leaving left of the gate, there's some good neighborhoods back there.
Excellent, man. Hey, so if you're in the Bragg area, I know we got a lot of Bragg listeners. So if you're in the Bragg area, you're about the PCS to Bragg, like I am, and you're looking for a place that will cash flow pretty decently after you leave, because you're not really seeing the multifamilies, then these are some Water's Edge, Haymount, Cumberland Heights. Some of these places are some of the places you might want to look into. So that's cool. That's good, man.
And if you don't remember what they are, just find me afterwards. I'm also a real estate agent, and I'll just find the house for you. I'll even get you pre-approved. I got you. From start to finish, I got it all. I'll find you the house. I'll get you in there, make sure everything's nice, and then when you leave, I'll manage it. I can take care of it all for you, and then I'll find you an agent on your next PCS station as well.
5 pillars, man. 5 pillars in the Horton family, dude. You heard it here. You heard it here. So we're definitely gonna talk offline as well. So, but that's awesome, man. Like I love it. For those around you, right, that have seen this growth and have seen this scale, what is it? How has it been received, or have you seen it been received? Because I know a lot of people, and myself included, right, when you first start off, it takes a lot of people don't, I'm not gonna say believe in what you're doing. A lot of people don't really want to talk about what you're doing. It's kind of one of those, it's kind of a weird situation, right? But then as you continue to grow, things start to change. And again, I'm asking selfish questions now. So what was that like for you? Or
So
what
at
is that like
first,
for you?
yeah. So I think at first people are like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," "Oh, you're still doing active orders, that you're just doing this nice side hustle." And then as we continue to grow, I think there's like 3 types of people as you continue to grow. The people that were with you at the beginning, that encouraged you to do it and that stood with you. That's awesome. And there's the people who kind of watched, and then as you grow, maybe they thought now you're finally at their level. Now they're inviting you out to have lunch with them. And now they're like, when you go in for your attorney, now they're actually meeting with you instead of you're just meeting with a paralegal. So things like that. I think that's the second type of person. And then there's the third type of person that, no matter how successful you are, they'll always take those shots at you. Like, oh, STR, property management. Oh, that, they always make little snide comments. And those are the people that I'm starting to notice that I'm just cutting away from, because I don't care about you. You had the same opportunity as me. And because I actually made the risk of doing it, you fell off, but now you're going to be a dick about it. I don't need to deal with you. Always trying to put me down to your level. So you're just going to go fall. So those are 3 people I think that I've noticed as we've gotten a little bit more successful. And, we are successful in a lot of ways, but there's still a lot of room to grow. I think we can definitely improve. And, people just see a lot of things, and, sometimes it gets at you like, all right, so that's why you just don't answer the phone anymore when they need help with one of their clients. Or, hey man, there's resources. Hit up Bigger Pockets if you want that.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about that today. That's why I asked a question. I had a person in our Facebook group. He reached out and he was asking some questions, and we somehow got on that got on that topic. And it was his response I thought was pretty cool. He's mentioned that like there's a bunch of different people like that. But what we talked about was some people just aren't ready to hear or aren't ready to see what you're doing. They're just not in the right mind frame. And then also there are a lot of people, especially like family members and things, and even people in the workplace, they view you in a certain way, right? Like that. I mean, they've known little Mark since,
Yes,
like 5 years old. That guy's the athlete. He's a jock. He's not a businessman. You know what I mean? Like so sometimes it's hard to overcome those, those preconceived ideas or things that they have about you. So it's kind of hard to see people in a different light, man.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I was meathead of meatheads back in college and in high school. So like, and it's funny you bring that up. I've gotten some like Instagram message and DMs like, hey man, this is really impressive. Like I remember when you used to like, smash bottles on your head or whatever. And now you're like running and you're having employees and you're just starting to develop things. I'm like, yeah, I say the same thing to them, and it's true. It took me a lot more time to grow up than you did, man. So that's just what happened.
And I think that's important, right? I think it's important because I know that we have listeners out there that have imposter syndrome, right? And I'm sure you've probably experienced a little bit of that as well. But I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Some people have imposter syndrome because they've been told their entire lives, or people in their family have viewed them a certain way their entire lives. So when it's time to step outside of that person that, family or whatever they think, sometimes it feels like, you internal, it's like, man, am I really supposed to be here? Like, is this really where I'm at? So I don't know. What do you think about that, man?
I absolutely agree with it. So we're actually going to get a little science here. One of my minors was, I think, in sociology, but what you're explaining is called labeling theory. It's an actual theory that they use in sociology. Is if you continue to tell someone there's something for so long, they're going to live up to that expectation. And when they try to get out of it, they're always going to feel bad about themselves because they're going against the social norms that they're not used to. So yeah, it is something. It's something that does affect people. If you always just been like the meathead and stuff, or you've always been like the quiet guy, now all of a sudden you're making podcasts and you're doing all this, it's going to feel weird. And I absolutely agree with that.
Yes, that's cool. Yeah, wanted to have that I guess that discussion, because I know there's other people out there that kind of thinking and feeling the same way, man. So hey, if you're out there and you listen, man, you felt that here in the heart, man. Hey, this is your time to go and take action and do something. You screw what everybody else is saying.
Just push through. Put 10 grand on a house and go buy something and push through. You're gonna be much happier when you go through it and actually start having success, man.
Yeah, definitely. Today's your day, man. Today's your day to take action and go off and go forth and do some great things, man. Change that perception that you believe about yourself and that other people have constantly said about you, man. It's just I guess a little motivation talk for you though. So it's good stuff. Yeah, man. So you came on, man. I love everything you're doing. You're scaling. You're setting up the cleaning business. You're hiring other people. You're affecting other lives, man. You're really, really out there in the community, helping people out. We'll have a conversation offline as well about some of those areas that we talked about as well. Again, selfish questions, right? This is one of the advantages of having a podcast. I can kind of, say what I want to, but I love everything you're doing, man. But let's I want to ask a little bit different question for ending up the podcast, right? Usually we ask like, what's one piece of advice, but this time I want to ask like, if you had to talk to someone else out there that wants to scale, right? What are some of the key things that they need to do? What are some of the key things that they need to do in order to make sure that that's going to be successful?
Okay. There's a few key things that they need to do. I think the first thing they need to do is identify their 20 and 80%. And what that is 20% of the things you usually do make you all your money. So you need to concentrate and make 100% of your time on that 20%. And you need to find ways, especially if you're already successful, you're trying to scale, to hand off that 80%. One of the ways that me and my wife did that is we just monitored everything we did for 2 weeks on a whiteboard, a big ass whiteboard. And then what we did at the end of 2 weeks is like, okay, this is taking all of our time. How do we outsource this to one of our employees, developed SOPs? So now that we have identified the issue, we developed SOPs and then we handed it off to someone else. And now we're concentrating and that task is good. We come and check in to make sure it's being done every once in a while correctly. If there's any issues, we tweak it and then we keep moving on. So I think that's how they need to scale, is they need to identify their 20 to 80, either 20% to 80%. Once you identify those things, develop SOPs, and then find someone to do those techniques. And I think a great book, if someone wants to scale, is Who Not How, to read. That is a fantastic book of hiring or bringing on the person to do small tasks like that instead of how you're going to do it, who's going to do it for you.
Nice, man. That's excellent advice, man. So identify the 80-20, write down your SOPs, and then essentially outsource.
Yep.
All right. Excellent, man. Well, shoot, man, it's been a great conversation, and we'll talk a little bit more offline as well. But how can our guys reach you, man? If they're moving to the Bragg area and they're like, man, I want to find a single family home because there's no multifamily homes in the area for my family to live at,
None. I got like 5 clients that are pre-approved and we can't find them a thing.
Well, who do we need to reach out to, man? How do they reach out to you?
So you can hit me up at mark@hortonstayrentals.com. That's an email of mine. You can hit up my Instagram. I think we're going to post that on there. So it's like Mark Horton _II for the second, because I am the second. If you're interested, also, you can join my Facebook group. It's Burr with 4 R's and B. So BurNB Investing. It is a Facebook group that I run. That is a place that I'm trying to grow to have people who are doing BurNB. So basically burning into an Airbnb and teaching all their lessons learned. So don't spam it. Don't put your shitty wholesale deals on it. Don't advertise your terrible real estate agent. Don't do any of that. This is for lessons learned. This is for us to work as a community to make better Airbnbs. That's another place you can reach me at. And then we will be launching the BurNB Investing YouTube page where I'm going to start filming content on that about different things to help improve your Airbnbs, things that you should be doing when you're flipping from a regular rental into an Airbnb, because there's different things that you're going to want to do. So that's another way you can get in contact with me.
Damn, I should have talked about that more. We should have delved into that, man, on the podcast. Maybe next time we'll get into that. But because I know that's going to be that's a serious thing. We should talk a little bit more about Airbnb, but next time we'll do that. But yeah, man, thanks so much for coming on again for the second time. I really appreciate all the knowledge you dropped there.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And, thank you for having me.
Definitely. Hey, with that said, this is Dan Wynn. See, I paused there for a second and waited for, because Mike usually is like, and Mike Glassby, but he's not on today.
So I'll just fill in. This is Dan Wynn and Mark Horton.
Yeah.
The Military Cashflow Podcast.
This is Dan Wynn
and Mark Horton
with the Military Cashflow signing off. That was good, man. That was good.